All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the Everything College Football Podcast. Today I'm doing a preview and prediction for Week 4 contest between the Arkansas Razorbacks and the Memphis Tigers going down on Saturday. Arkansas 6.5-point favorites. 62.5 is the total. 12 p.m. Eastern Time on ABC. Getting things started with the Arkansas offense against the Tigers defense. For Arkansas, coming into the year, we figured this would be an offense that would really shine once again this season. Last year, they were underrated, and it was a pretty sound group, putting up 31 points per game, and that certainly was the expectations this year. They would exceed those numbers, and so far they have, putting up 47 points per game. Obviously, they played some weaker opponents to start the year, but they just got, beat in a close game against Ole Miss. There was a shootout. They still ended the day with over 500 total yards, ended up losing the game by 6 on the road in Oxford. But they flexed their muscle on the ground and through the air. You want to start with Talon Green. This is a very talented quarterback. When he arrived at Arkansas from Boise, a lot of people knew that he had a lot of upside and a lot of talent. And so far, he's putting it all together. 13 touchdowns, nearly 1,200 total yards. Despite being 235 pounds, he's a phenomenal runner. Back-to-back games of 100-plus yards and a score. He has tremendous speed, nice athletic ability. His arm is, quite the cannon as well. He's been nicely efficient, almost, 69% in terms of that. 300-plus yards against Ole Miss. And, they were playing from behind in that game, but at first, it really was just back and forth, and they ended up struggling at times in that second half that allowed Ole Miss to kind of pull away. But Green is great, and I think this is an offense that has a lot of nice talent around him as well. Mike Washington transfers in from New Mexico State, and he's been great. He's really emerged as that running back 260 yards and 3 scores. He had a long rushing touchdown against the Razorbacks as well, 8.4 yards per carry. Braylon Russell hasn't been used as much, but he is a power back, 240 pounds, a guy that they use in the red zone and in short yardage. The wide receiver group, I think, is incredibly solid. Omega Blake, it was a bit of a transfer-heavy unit. He's the one who's emerged the most, leads the team in all categories. 18 grabs for 266 yards and 3 touchdowns. Jalen Brown and C.J. Brown both have 100-plus yards on the year. Raylan Sharp, another one of those transfers, 2 scores, 15.3 yards per catch. So he's been doing very well. Addition of the football around to a variety of different targets. I think this is a wide receiver room that I was pretty high on coming into the year. I thought it was a quite solid group, and I think collectively this is one of the more underrated supporting casts in the conference. What I really like for Arkansas is this offensive line. I felt like if they could strike the right combo with some of these spots on the interior, they'd be very sound. Corey Robinson was a phenomenal addition from Georgia Tech. He's been elite at left tackle. Right tackle, Marion Harris, who's got plenty of size, has also been great. These tackle spots have just been generating so much pass protection for them. The interior has been a little bit more inconsistent. I think Fernando Carmona, though, has been the standout. Moving from tackle to guard has benefited him tremendously. Kobe Bronham has stepped in at right guard, a guy that I didn't expect to start at that spot early on in the season, but he's been doing very well. Going up against a Memphis defense that has played very solid so far. 11 points per game allowed against Troy on Saturday. On the road, only gave them 112 yards of total offense. Georgia State a couple weeks earlier was able to really pick them apart through the air. But in terms of the run defense, Memphis has been pretty good. And last year, their run defense, if you want to, kind of use it as a comparison, it was a pretty solid unit as well. They only gave up 2 games of 200-plus yards, 3 that is. One of them was in the bowl game, but in the regular season, only 2. One was to Navy in a loss they really struggled in, and then North Texas. So the tougher offenses certainly had their number, and this is a tougher offense here. Are they going to have enough bodies and horses in the trenches to get the job done here? I'm really not sure. I think to start the year, they've been good. William Whitlow, coming off the edge, has been tremendous. Jalen Bell, Puda Walker, Everett Rousseau at linebacker has been tremendous as well. I think the linebackers for Memphis have been elite. Sam Brumfield as well. He's been a high-end producer, especially against the run for Memphis. This is a guy that leads the team with 17 tackles. He's also got 3 sacks as well. So blitzing these linebackers has been very effective. That's something I might like to do here because I'm just not sure Memphis is going to be able to generate much pass rush with their defensive line, because I think this O-line for the Hogs is tremendous. And Talon Green, this is a guy I think that's really going to pick you apart from the pocket if he has time. And I think he can also, of course, hurt you with his legs, and the run game is incredibly explosive with its versatility. So Arkansas, they're really cooking with house money. This is such a fun offense in Memphis. The corners are going to have big responsibilities. So Marion Cooper, Jane Dennis, These guys have been very good to start the season, albeit against weaker opponents, but against Georgia State a couple weeks ago, a game they did win, they were getting, throttled through the air. They ended up giving up 340 yards and 70% comp rate. It was a blowout victory. State was playing from behind, but that's still quite notable is because the other opponents they played were also playing from behind, and they shut them down. And so this is by far the toughest offense in all regards they have seen. I think the secondary, though, does have some compelling pieces. Kamari Wilson, it's been a while since some of you heard that name, the X5 star. He's really struggled as a tackler. He's been all right in coverage, pretty good against the run, though. DeMarco Ward, I think, has been much more consistent and much better alongside him as a starting safety. So I think overall for Arkansas, this is an offense that's humming. I think they're absolutely great outside of, a couple of missteps against Ole Miss that caused them to, eventually lose that game. I think here, this is a very, tasty matchup for them. I think they're going to have great pass protection. I think they're going to be able to run the ball as well. And they're probably going to be able to do whatever they want for the most part in this game. You look at the other side of things. Memphis, of course, they're known for having, under Ryan Silverfield, phenomenal offenses. And they're going to look to try and keep pace against Arkansas defense that obviously had some struggles against Ole Miss, against Trinidad Chambliss, a guy making his first career FBS start. He was really picking them apart on defense. They gave up, 300-plus passing, 350-plus passing, that is. But against the run, they played very well. They didn't give up a whole lot against a team that likes to run the football. That's what they did against Kentucky in a game that was really sluggish for Ole Miss. Through the air, they were able to pound it out, and they weren't able to do that against Arkansas. Less than 3 yards per attempt for their opposition on Saturday. Arkansas's defensive line really stepping up, making some big plays. I think collectively it's a group that is quite impressive in terms of their development, at least early on this season. Veteran Cameron Ball is phenomenal in the interior. Quincy Rhodes has been a great pass rusher for them. He's really been tough to stop. And, of course, he has a couple of sacks as well, 3 of them so far this year. Didn't have one against Ole Miss, but he generated plenty of pressure in that one. He's going to be one of your standouts. You look at Phillip Lee coming off the other side. He's been pretty impressive to start the year. I don't think that the depth on the interior is all that sound for Arkansas. So if Memphis can play with some tempo and play with some speed, they should have success. But if Ole Miss couldn't do it with their deep collection of backs and their variety of play calling, I think it's going to be hard here for Memphis. On offense, though, they have Brendan Lewis, a guy who I never really thought was that good. Had a bit of a resurgent season last year at Nevada. He was pretty efficient. He was a great dual-threat player for the Wolfpack. Nearly 30 total touchdowns early on this season. He's also been a quite efficient passer, 73%. He's averaging about 200 yards per game. He's also been able to put things together on the ground, 190 rushing with 2 more scores. So Lewis has really developed. This is a team in Memphis that always has a very good quarterback that really understands the scheme. They know where they want to go with the football. They can really do a good job of seeing the defense. Of course, they did just have a 4-year starter in Seth Hennigan, so it's been a while since they've had to insert somebody new, and they went to the portal to do that in Lewis. This is a guy I think significantly improved his game, though, especially with his efficiency, protecting the football. At running back, you have Sutton Smith. 6 yards per carry so far this year and 4 scores. Frank Peasant right behind him. This is a guy transferred in from Middle Tennessee who had some success at times, but for the most part, it's really just been the Smith show. Him and Lewis combined for about 24 attempts per game out of the 40 the Memphis rushing attack is using. At wide receiver, Jamari Hawkins, Cortez Brahim, he followed over from Nevada. He was the number 1 wide receiver there at Memphis, so this is a guy that's capable of playing some big football and making big plays and being productive. Jamari Hawkins, he's been in the program for a couple of years. Now he's getting his first taste of being a wide receiver. 185-pounder. Had exactly 3 receptions in all 3 games so far to lead the team with 9. I think this is an offense that probably doesn't have as many weapons as in years past. I don't think the supporting cast is as complete. I definitely think Lewis and his dual threat abilities is a bit of an equalizer for that, though. I think as they get in the conference play, this offense might struggle a little bit more. For them, the tackles have been pretty good. Chris Adams has had some inconsistencies. He allowed a couple of sacks already this year. Travis Burke, on the other hand, at right tackle has not. And I think the interior offensive line outside of Parker Mitchell at right guard have played quite well. But they're also going against an Arkansas defense. It's vastly different than what they've seen so far. Arkansas, I don't think they're going to have the greatest of defenses by any means. I think it'll be a below-average group, quite frankly, for the most part this year. So I think Memphis can certainly do some scoring. Something to watch at corner, Kenai Walker. He really struggled against Ole Miss. Then he got injured, which seems like a serious injury, so we're certainly hoping he can come back to full health at some point. But he was one of their starting corners, and he probably is going to miss this game. Julian Neal has played very well this season, but Jaheim Singletary is going to be entering back into the lineup, and he's really just been a liability for them when he's on the field. Jordan Young in the slot, though, I think is tremendous, despite a strugglesome start to the year for him. This is a guy that's capable of playing good football. And then at safety, this is a group I just don't think has the greatest athleticism. I think Larry Worth needs to be on the field. Miguel Mitchell has improved, but he's still not good when it comes to tackling and being in phase when it comes to defending the run. Caleb Wooden, a veteran, he's been, I think, probably more consistent out of the bunch, but it's, again, an average, below average group. And of course, I can't go without talking about the linebackers in Steven Dix and Xavier Sori. These guys are tremendous. They're good producers. They're respectable against the run. I think to start this year, though, they haven't been all that great, but they are productive. They're the leaders in the middle. They both have 20-plus tackles this year to get things started. They're very productive football players in the middle. They were both starters last year for them. So going up against this dual-threat quarterback, they're going to have to make sure they're defending the read options well. They can defend this slashing, rushing attack with ease. One of the final thoughts on the prediction, 6.5-point line, I understand. I guess because Memphis, it can be a tough spot to go on the road, especially with the Arkansas defense not being the most polished group. But I think this is just an offense that's humming, and I think they're going to have a field day here. I'm going to pick 45-24 final score. I think they're going to end up pulling away from Memphis. I just think Brendan Lewis, despite his improvements and his ability to be a dual-threat guy with efficiency, I just don't think he's that great of a quarterback altogether. And he's going to be putting some opportunities, and I think in a lot of third and longs where he's going to have to make plays downfield of his arm. I'm just not sure he can do that on a consistent basis. Well, Arkansas, Taylor Green, I think they're going to have clean pockets for days. I think he's going to be able to just chuck the ball over the field and staying ahead of the sticks with their very good rushing attack that has speed and physicality. I mean, it's a lot of versatility from the Hogs offense. It's a great group. So I think they're going to win this one in rather blowout fashion. Might take it a minute, and they might have to get things going in the second half. It's totally possible this defense just regresses from last week, and they get even worse. But I think this is a matchup they can handle. It's going to allow them to get some stops and to pull away here on the road. So I'm going to take Arkansas to get the job done. It's going to be the best bet of this game. It's me for today's episode. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. See you next time.